Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. For this special video, I thought I'd mix this one in here while I'm continuing to do your Mafia and Gangsters videos. This one actually has to do with a little play on the current series that I'm doing that's called the Ghost and Horror Stories videos. In those, I just basically read encounters that people have had with either the paranormal or other type of horror related encounters, and it's proven to be pretty popular. Like, people seem to like it, and I have a lot of fun with it. So the other day I was looking at some articles, and eventually it led me to a website that focuses on some terrifying encounters that people have had with skinwalkers. That's right, something that I've talked about in the past very briefly. In fact, my header video here on my YouTube channel is the one that focuses on it more. And I was reading the encounters. I was thinking to myself, why not share it the same way here? So in this video, at least, I'm going to focus on 4 of them. 4 of those encounters, just read them as is, and then give them some of my own thoughts afterward. And if you're interested in me doing more of these type of read-along encounter videos, just let me know in the comments. I'll definitely be happy to take a look and start focusing on some other ones. So again, let's go ahead and, at least for this video, talk about 4 terrifying encounters that people had with Navajo skinwalkers. Very, very interesting, very scary stuff. So the first one is titled Yenald Lushi is Watching Me. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Yenald Lushi is Watching Me. Here's how it goes. My grandmother on my mother's side has always been very superstitious, for lack of a better word. She's not religious, but she does believe in a lot of paranormal stuff. Her mother was full-blooded Navajo and her father was Irish. Either way, she'd never been anywhere east of Montana, and she grew up in Nevada. One year when I was in grade school, we went to visit her. Most of the visit was just pretty uneventful, typical boring old people stuff, except she always kept her curtains drawn shut and would always peek out the window, and when someone asked what she was doing, she would simply reply, Yana Lushi is watching me. This went on for nearly the entire visit until a few days before we were due to leave. My grandma and my then baby brother, he's 19 now, we were in the front yard that evening planting flowers when all of a sudden my grandmother starts shouting, and this is where she screams the little brother's name, "Get away from that creature, it's not safe." Of course, being in Nevada, we all assumed that my brother had found a scorpion or a rattlesnake, so we all ran outside to see my grandmother clutching my little brother and shaking in terror against the side of the house. She was standing out in the yard, and outside was a large black Great Dane-sized dog. It was staring at my grandmother with an intensity I'd never seen before. It looked up at us, gave a little huff, and then bounded off. I don't remember if it moved unusually fast or not, but I do remember it had really deep yellow eyes. And when my when my mother asked my grandmother what had happened, she kept repeating, "The Yanalushi has found me. The Yanalushi has found me." And she moved a couple of weeks after that. And that's pretty much it. That's at least that encounter associated with that scary Great Dane that was there in the Nevada area. The second one that's titled, continues with the Navajo Skinwalkers encounters, is titled On the Res Alone at Night. And here's what this user posted. My uncle and cousin saw a large deer on the side of the road. When they got closer, it hopped over the fence like a bipedal man. And one time driving back from Gallup, my dad saw an old Navajo woman walking on the side of the road. And when he slowed to offer a ride, she took off into the plains quickly with inhuman speed. And once when I was a kid, my family was at my aunt's house when in a rural scheduled area, and when we were toyed with by a few entities. They would make these animal noises, and when we looked to the direction from which the noises were coming from, they would turn a flashlight on and off. The noises would come from all directions and in increasingly shorter successions. Usually when I'm there on the reservation visiting alone at night, I always will feel the presence of evil and dread. Panic and paranoia will wash over me, and as sudden as it comes, it will leave. That's it. That's the second entry that this person gave associated with some type of encounter with Navajo skinwalkers, or in this case, multiple of them, considering that it was bouncing back and forth between his location. The third one is also similarly small, but it's titled, "It Moved Like a Toy Rocking Horse." And here's what they said. My uncle is Mexican and Native American. This happened in the Mojave Desert there in Southern California. He was driving around with his girlfriend late at night, and they saw something that looked like a huge black dog on the side of the road. He slowed down and the dog began crossing the road, but instead of walking like a normal dog would, this thing moved like a toy rocking horse. He said it stopped in the middle of the road, stared right at them, and its eyes had a big red glow. My uncle is the most badass person I know, and it scared the crap out of him. Then that's it. That's the entry at least for the third one, and this is again involving another Native American or Navajo skinwalker, this time involving yet another dog. Interesting stuff. The last one I wanted to mention here for this one is titled, "They Ran Away on Their Back Legs." So here's how this one goes. So this happened about 12 years ago. My family owns a farm into the heart of an Indian reservation, and one winter I was home for Christmas taking care of the farm while my parents were away Christmas shopping. As I was home by myself, way late at night, and I hear all of a sudden all our cows freaking out. I knew it had to be the wild dogs that are rampant in the area, so I throw on some boots, grab a shotgun, load it up, and head out to the field. This was a perfect scenario for a horror movie. It was cloudy, but there was a full moon, and it was breaking through the clouds just enough to light up all the snow. I ran out into the middle of the field, and just in time, I see two dogs. They were standing up facing each other and fighting. I think, oh, perfect, 2 for 1. So I pump a shell into the chamber of Mr. 12 gauge, and then it happened. The two dogs heard that rack. They both stopped, looked over at me, and ran away on their back legs. Immediately, I froze, and every ghost story about skinwalkers and all the other native legends I grew up with flew through my mind. Keep in mind, I am a white guy, and up until then, these were all just boogeyman stories that the native kids like to tell to scare us. That night, they became very real to me. And then it ends right there. So there we go. 4 straight back-to-back really scary encounters, which what seems to be Navajo skinwalkers. Pretty much all of them having to do with these things looking like dogs, or in one case at least it looked like a deer as well. And in several cases you had them running with inhuman speed, like obviously if they were caught, in other words people saw them, all of a sudden they were darting off from one place to another but really quickly, and in other cases doing them standing upright. Can you imagine just how eerie that would look if you were to see like a dog and then all of a sudden it would come up on its hind legs like a man would, and then it would run exactly like a man? I don't care who you are, that would scare me when it comes to seeing something like that. Not only that, but of course seeing it jump off the ground in a natural speed and then going towards another area like jumping off a fence. And then you had the other encounter with this dog, whatever it was, moving like a rocking horse. That gave me the chills when I was reading that information, because imagine seeing something like that out there in the middle of the road. Here you think it's a cute little dog, and then all of a sudden you see this thing, whatever it is, just moving about like a rocking horse unnaturally. Just really, really creepy stuff. But yeah, at least also, if you notice, there was another theme. A lot of this happened in Indian reservation lands, and several of them there in Nevada. Pretty fascinating stuff, because obviously there's a lot of land out there that's just associated with Indian reservation. I know some people that actually used to grow up and live in Indian reservations, and they have their own encounters too with something that is, with things that are out there that are truly unnatural. So this is happening still to this day on those lands. If anyone has any personal encounters when it comes to, let's say, growing up on an Indian reservation and then hearing some of these tales, either yourself personally witnessing it or hearing them from others, then that'd be really great to share too. But that's pretty much it. That's everything I have for this go around. And again, let me know if you wanted me to do more videos like this on the cryptids and monster sides, maybe even on the ghosts and spirit side, where I'm reading just encounters that people have had. Then please let me know. I might just do them still on my own, because it does seem like this is pretty fun stuff. Reading these encounters, coming across them, sharing them, and then getting that eerie feeling just all across from them. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye. Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Continuing on the idea of reading encounters, scary encounters that people have had with some cryptids and monsters out there, I thought I would do yet another video here following up from the one I just did the other day. So the other day I did a video that was titled 4 Scary Skinwalker Encounters that people have had. I thought let's go ahead and let's share 4 more scary Skinwalker encounters here, and then I'll give my thoughts on it afterward. It seems like a lot of people really liked that video. Got a good number of quick views. It got some good comments and then also some thumbs up. So definitely it resonated with a lot of people. And who knows, maybe I'll branch out and start doing other ones like other cryptid encounters or aliens, UFO encounters, ghost spirits. Just start reading some of those specific experiences that people have had and then give my thoughts on it afterward. But let's go ahead and let's start off with this one here. Again, 4 more scary skinwalker encounters that people have had. Now this first tale is titled, "It Had a Dog's Body but with Human Hands and Feet." Already it seems scary enough, doesn't it? So here's what this user posted. They said, "I was spending a month with my cousins at my grandma's house. It was August and my cousins' ages ranged from 10 to 15 and I was the oldest, being 15. I was staying with a 10, 13, and 14-year-old. We stayed up telling scary stories often. But one night, a few weeks in, we decided to make a campfire out back. My grandma's house is in a rural suburb. The neighbors aren't too far when you're driving down the road to her house, but in the backyard, it's a thick forest with man-made paths throughout. Each house is on a hill, so only part of the basement is actually underground. That isn't important until later on, though. So we're towards the east side of her yard, in a smallest patch of open land, and you couldn't see the neighboring yards from there, and there were probably 3/4 a mile to each side of us that belonged to my grandma. Now it was maybe 11 at night, and we were playing truth or dare after telling scary stories, and my 14-year-old cousin dared me and the 13-year-old to go walk through the paths for 10 minutes or so. I said yes right away, as I wasn't easily scared and rather level-headed, but my younger cousin was a bit more hesitant. We didn't bring a flashlight because it wasn't pitch dark yet, and we could see enough to not die. And so we were walking through the paths for about 5 minutes and could barely see the fire through the trees when we decided to turn. In the middle of the path was a large dog-like creature hunched over with its front hands an inch from the ground. What I remember most was how its eyes were so blanking bright white. And it was humanoid, dog-shaped, but with a human-like head, but a dog-like body, but also human hands and feet. It looked right at us, and I know I was paralyzed with fear as it dashed away the opposite way from us, towards a creek that ran through the yard. Eventually, my cousin and I screamed bloody effing murder, and the other cousins and my grandma ran to us. I don't remember much here because I was really disoriented, and I couldn't think properly, but I did wake up in bed, so I assumed that I was brought up to the house. All the kids slept in a basement in a big room with sliding glass doors to the outside, as the room was on the side that wasn't underground. My bed was pressed against a big glass window, and I could see my cousins playing outside down below. This house is in Michigan, so it gets slightly chilly even in the end of August, and there was a slight breeze, so I put on a jacket and ran to join them outside, skipping breakfast, not wanting to miss out on anything fun. When I got down, I could tell they weren't playing, but rather running to get my grandma. Her dogs, both of them, were dead, ripped up. That night, we went to bed early. I woke up at maybe 2 in the morning because I felt something hit my head. My cousins were all sitting on the double bed opposite of me on the other side of the room, and there was one bunk bed and two double beds. The double beds for me and my 14-year-old cousin. They were being quiet and staring at me. The 13-year-old nodded his head towards the window, and I froze. They all looked afraid. I turned my head slightly to the side, and I saw a really messed up looking face pressed up to the window with gaping eyes looking down at me. I screamed so effing loud, it bolted. My grandma called the police after I told her what happened, and they found nothing. I went home after that, and I have never been there during the night again. And that's pretty much it. That's what ends this tale with regards to another encounter yet again with a dog-like creature, dog-like body, but now with human hands, and then it had a human-like head, and then also human feet. Pretty creepy stuff. Interesting that this took place in Michigan, too. All the other encounters I've mentioned have been in areas that are usually for Indian reservations out there in Nevada and so on. Here, though, it's definitely happening in the colder part of the U.S. Goes to show that if this thing truly was a skinwalker, it's out there throughout multiple parts of the country, even in places one normally wouldn't think of. Pretty creepy, too, how you had this thing that was just there, encountered in that forestly-like area, and then later on it followed them to the actual house itself, pressing whatever type of eerie-looking face it had right to the window, watching them for who knows how long until they woke up and then saw, obviously, it right there. Freaky stuff. I could totally understand why they didn't be there, why they weren't there afterward. Now, the next tale happens to do with this. It's called It Was Neither Fully Human Nor Fully Animal. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that here. In July 2014, near Gallup, New Mexico, I had my first and only encounter with a skinwalker. Before this, I used to say, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, I'm a believer now. What I saw was not fully human nor fully animal. I was moving. I had just completed the cleaning and was with my 10-year-old son. We had called it a night and we were headed to our new place. As we walked out the front door, I saw a figure move from behind my neighbor's car to a nearby tree that stood between our apartments. It did not have red glowing eyes, snarling teeth, or a rotten smell, but it did move quickly, but not quickly enough to avoid the light from a nearby light post and the porch lights. It didn't even look at me or come toward me. It moved as if it was trying to avoid being seen. I was within 15 feet of it, but I did not look back to fully inspect it. But what I saw was a wolf-like animal that sort of resembled the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, just not as cartoonish. It had brown fur that was completely covered. It wasn't a pelt. It was a very large wolf. It didn't have any human traits except that it walked on its hind legs. It cowered behind a tree as we got into our vehicle. And when we got in, I asked my son, "Did you see that?" Thankfully, he hadn't. My brother-in-law insists that it wasn't a skinwalker because I would never have seen it. But to this day, I can picture what it looked like, know they exist, and pray that I never encounter one again. And that's it. That's pretty much that short but sweet encounter associated with this skinwalker. Now, this one happened there in New Mexico. Again, as I was mentioning a minute ago, most areas out there that are more traditional when it comes to skinwalker encounters, pretty creepy too. Now, in this case, it was larger than some of the other encounters, almost like they said the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. You can picture something like that looking almost towering. Interesting, though, that yet again, these things seem to just dart around as soon as they're spotted, like they don't want to be seen. And in this case, it was moving in between apartment complexes behind a tree, and that it was cowering from them or trying to make sure that it wasn't looked at or wasn't found. Again, it's an interesting notion because normally one sees encounters with skinwalkers being a lot much scarier. I like the visualization too that this guy painted when it came to having this happen nearby his apartment complexes, because I live in apartment complexes, and yes, there are trees in between the actual buildings themselves, so I could totally visualize at night how that would appear in those brief spurts of light. To see something like this, you thought you saw something that looked like it did, and then you're questioning yourself afterward. At least in this case, there wasn't any true scary encounter like something bad happening. Next one is simply called The Grove. So let's go ahead and let's share this entry here. So here's what this user posted. This didn't happen to me, but a very close friend of mine. I've heard a lot about coyotes and skinwalkers and had a weird experience or two with coyotes. Creepiest was waking up to my sleeping bag being surrounded in paw prints without ever hearing them during the night, but never anything paranormal, so to speak. Patrick's story, however, my friend, kept me from going back to a favorite backcountry secret stash. So he was leaving the area one morning, had been camping there a couple of days, and said there was a coyote that always seemed to be close by, like in his peripheral vision, but never overt. He loaded up his truck and started to drive down the wash over there by the fire road. And at the end of the wash, he could see the coyote following him. When he pulled up onto the road, it was now running next to him. Now he was freaked out, so he sped up. He said he was going 35 miles an hour or so, and it was easily running along beside him. Definitely not possible. And when he looked back, the coyote was running on two legs and was wearing what Patrick said looked like buckskin pants. An instant later, it was a person wearing coyote fur, now keeping pace up with his truck. And then when he looked again, it was gone. We never ever went back to that grove after that. And then that's it. That's the short, also but sweet story associated with this skinwalker encounter. Number one, interesting that this didn't happen to the main author, but it occurred to his friend. Obviously, he knew about a place that they went to for miscellaneous purposes, and so the fact that this happened at their favorite backcountry secret stash just points that who knows how long they were there while this thing, whatever it was, potential skinwalker, was there the entire time too. Interesting too that this thing was there in a peripheral vision, close by but never far enough, always just within a short distance. And of course, the freakiest part was now all of a sudden it was almost chasing that guy in his truck and then making sure that it could catch up to him very easily before he almost saw it morph into what looked like something involving legs, and then finally a person, a human that was doing this. And then of course it was gone afterward. Freaky stuff. I can attest to being out there in a backcountry area where coyotes are, and it is pretty freaky. I was there over in Good Springs, Nevada. If you haven't been there before, they have a world famous haunted saloon called the Pioneer Saloon. Outside of the saloon, though, at night, there's nothing. There's nothing surrounding it. There's Good Springs, which is kind of nearby, but they have a very small population. Here, though, at night, all you see is just blackness surrounding you. There are no nearby lights. Other than the street lights, that's about it. Everything surrounding the street lights is pure pitch black. But you do hear the coyotes. They are nearby. You can hear them scampering by. You can hear their wails. It freaked me out because I couldn't hear them. I couldn't see them, but they could see me, obviously with their excellent vision. And so who knows how close they were to me when I was out there taking pictures and so on. And I could just imagine this experience involving the skinwalkers. Luckily, I don't think Good Springs, Nevada has any skinwalkers out there. Otherwise, I wouldn't probably go back. But that's at least the closest type of experience I had. Now, the last one is titled, It Was Like It Knew We Knew What It Really Was. Interesting title, scary stuff. So let's go ahead and let's talk about it here. I decided to join my bestie Karen for a 3-day stay at her grandmother's place on the res. Her grandmother lives near a place called Tuba City, Arizona, in the middle of nowhere but surrounded by rural homes. We go to college together, and I was kind of interested to know about Navajo tradition. The first day we stayed, it was pretty chill, nothing out of the ordinary, but then her grandma, who wasn't that old by the way, around 67, said that a stray dog came out of nowhere and wouldn't leave. To me, it did that kind of strange, and it looked ugly. Black, shaggy coat, looked like a mix between a German Shepherd and a lab. That night, we were watching a movie in the living room, which had big windows that looked out into the front where the cars are parked, nothing fancy, with the curtains wide open. Grandma was in the kitchen cooking dinner, and we were watching a movie, and next to the window is a medium bookshelf and where the DVDs are kept. So Karen went to put back a DVD we had just watched, but she freaked out because that stray black dog was now staring at us through the window, standing on top of the wood box outside. Not something normal dogs do from my point of view or from hers. Usually my dog, which is a house dog, scratches the door to be let in. Res dogs aren't house dogs, and dogs inside houses are frowned upon in Navajo tradition. They're meant to be outside to protect the house and the owner. So the other dogs seem to stay away from it. Karen opened the door and yelled at it to get off the box. It ran off and then went behind the shed. And so we went to Tuba City to get some groceries and came back to the house. The dog was nowhere to be seen, nothing unusual. Grandma went to visit some people, so it was just Karen and I. And so about 5 o'clock, we heard someone try and open a door. Both of us looked out since there had been no car heard and no dogs barking. And then looking out the living room window to the door, there was that same dog trying to open the door with its paws. 2 paws were wrapped around the brass door knob, and it was standing on its hind legs. I thought that was weird, but wasn't really freaked out, but Karen was. She opened the door and chased it off. Grandma came back later and Karen told her, and Grandma didn't like what she heard. So we got ready to sleep, and we slept in the spare bedroom since it has 2 beds. One window with the curtains open a little, and we turned off the light, but there was a sound coming from on top of the roof. There was this pitter-patter footsteps of scratching sounds and panting. It then sounded like it jumped off onto the large plastic water barrel that they had. At first we heard what sounded like barking, but as it grew louder, the other dogs seemed to be barking at something also. And then all of a sudden, something was running around the house barking, and it was no dog. Nope, it wasn't a dog. This barking sounded human, a deep male voice, barking like it knew that we knew it wasn't a dog. It went something like woof, woof, ruff, something along those lines, just exactly like that, adding the W's, R's, and the A's. Then it panted again by the window, and we started freaking out. Karen decided to, in my opinion at least, which was stupid, open the curtains to look out, and there was the stray dog on its hind legs looking into our bedroom, but this time it stunk, and what I thought were 2 black holes in the neck and another pair of eyes twinkled. Think of those ugly, glossy spider eyes staring at you, and the paws were deformed, looking like hands with overgrown, somewhat thick and sharp fingernails. Again, both of us screaming and shutting the curtains closed. Grandma came running through the door, and seeing it, first thing she did was grab ashes from the fireplace. She loaded 3 shells into the shotgun from under the bed and blessed herself in Navajo, and then went outside to shoot at it, yelling in Navajo about how the thing wasn't welcome there and to get the hell out of there, for it to go linger somewhere else. Then, both being traditional, the next day they called a medicine man to come over and put cedar in. He prayed over everyone with cedar smoke and an eagle feather, blessed the place, made us eat bitter herbs called eagle's goal or something like that, and then gave me an arrowhead. Apparently, I needed to carry one for protection, and a little pouch called corn pollen seems to work pretty well. The medicine man said the dog was a skinwalker, which in Navajo is a long word, but I call them Yoshis. The body of a stray dog, which was killed by the skinwalker, made an illusion so we wouldn't know it wasn't a real dog. He also said that Yoshis tend to harm people by using some sort of human bone straw to spit at someone. Think spitballs, only deadlier, and then get human bones into them. Doctors can't detect it, but the medicine man that day pulled a piece of human skull out of grandma's right shoulder. It was pretty big, about 2 inches long and 1 centimeter thick, and it was real because we watched him pull out of her, and then that was it. That was intense. And that's where the story ends associated with this one. Easily the most scariest one out of the all four, because not only did you have this thing obviously working towards let's say going after these people over several days, several hours, in fact, that also ended up actually attacking them, and it ended up attacking the grandma as well, who knew more information about skinwalkers, what it was, and then also how to protect it, involving how to protect themselves, involving using that makeshift set of bullets, involving ashes, and then screaming at it in Navajo. Eerie stuff. And then again, it goes to show that this was straight at a reservation. In this case, a place called Tuba City there in Arizona. Pretty freaky stuff. The way this thing was just also running around and then making sure that the other dogs were nowhere near it. That's the first I've ever heard too about anything involving bone, like in this case using bone almost like in a spitball manner to go into someone. Someone might have to explain that though, why that is. The author didn't explain it. Is it something along the lines of a curse? Is it something where once it's in someone's body, it causes something bad to happen within them? Is it some kind of radar? Who knows? Like internal radar, so that way that skinwalker knows where this person is at all times. Someone again might have to explain that at least. But the fact that this thing was again also trying to turn the doorknob, when you see a dog doing that, that's just so unnatural. You do not want to have anything like that near you. It's pretty freaky stuff, scary stuff all around, and also that it knew that these people knew it was there and what it was doing to them. It almost seemed to enjoy as far as the scary experience it was creating. But that's pretty much it. That's everything associated with these 4 more scary encounters with these skinwalkers. If anybody has any more info, anything else I might have missed, then please post those comments below. What about those of you, once again, have lived, or know someone that lived in these reservations? Seems to be a lot of encounters associated with skinwalkers there. I would love to hear what your thoughts are too. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.